morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Hi, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas, and today we are going to talk about everything from consoles to checklists to summer jobs on Light Talk.
And this is David in the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. So last week we had an amazing episode with Al Crawford. We interviewed Al, and we got a lot of great feedback from it. And I just thought it was just a very entertaining and illuminative, how you like that, illuminative, well, he is the knight of illumination after all, interview. So what do you guys think?
It's good. It's great.
It's good. Yeah, did you see that photo I found of him? I posted as a photo.
I was going to say, that's a pretty great photo.
That was a really great photo. I don't know where I found it. It was someplace on the internet. I hope he's not pissed off at me for using it, but hey, there you go.
He looks good in it.
You can check the Light Talk webpage. That's where the photo is.
Is that where you got the photo?
Yes, it's also on his website.
I found it in some sort of random search for Al Crawford. So
not so
it may
hard
not
to
even
find.
be him for all I know.
That was his photo he used for Night of Illumination Award.
Oh, with all the colors in it, right? Because it has all these great colors. It's really quite beautiful. Anyway, so one thing that came to mind after listening to Al about his career and how our careers take these divergent paths and you can never predict what's going to happen. I mean, here's someone who started working in lighting design who actually hooked up with dance and got involved with Alvin Ailey, and it turned into a lifelong career and lifelong relationship with that amazing company. How many friends have we seen, go through the same thing, and certainly in our careers as well. I never thought I'd end up where I was going. Did you guys think you were going to end up where you are right now?
No.
Really?
Not at all. I hated Florida. Hated it. I had relatives here. I'd come to visit it in the summertime in August, and it was disgusting. The heat, the sweat, I did not ever imagine myself to
palmetto
be in this,
bugs
in this state.
that fly. They're like giant
palmetto
roaches.
bugs. Yeah, just, geckos everywhere. I never thought I would live in Florida, ever. And so you never know. I never thought I'd live in Nebraska from Brooklyn to, so you never know. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back.
What you're talking about, David, is the relationship you have with some of the directors you work with. Yeah. We meet people, we see their work, we like their work, they like our work, there's something that clicks. Al, for him, Alvin Ailey clicked. He talks about that. He wanted to work with Alvin Ailey from a very young age.
Right.
And I think what's so interesting about him is the kind of curation work that he does to maintain the work of all the other designers and the kind of legacy work that they do. So it's interesting. And I just think it was very interesting talking to him because there was just no ego there. It was just an artist talking about a passion he felt for dance.
Exactly. I totally agree. There was no ego at all. And what he does is so difficult to do. That's what a lot of us who started as assistants, when you start moving shows, for a designer, and you go into different, venues where you have different challenges of angle and equipment and stuff like that, and you have to make artistic choices. And you want to be able to make the artistic choice that the designer that you're representing would make, and not necessarily one that you would make. And he does that, all the time. And he does a great job doing it. So I just respect that so much.
Sort of like lighting archaeology, where you're sort of having to get into the mind of the other person if they're not alive, or like I'm putting it in a museum context. It's like conservators who restore artwork. They have to get into like what were they doing at the time, and how do I sort of maintain that integrity? It's fascinating work.
So today we're going to be actually, what is this? Episode 87 today. Wow. Stan, you have the first question.
I do, and it comes from Martin, who asks, "What is your pre-tech checklist?" Okay, so I made a short list, and I'll try to be a little bit surprising and try to say what I do. So first of all, I really want to be in good shape when I'm walking in the door. I want to be in my best state of mind. I want to be sharp, both mentally and physically. And I want to maintain that, so I'm going to have some healthy snacks, right, put together. So that's my one and two, healthy snacks, and I want to be in good shape mentally and physically. And then I want to have my cue sheets ready, so I've gone through the show. I have a sense of where I'm going. I really like to have a videotape if I can get it, so I can go back, because my memory, I can't remember everything I've seen. I may have notes in my script, but I really want to have a tape that I can refer to. I want to have all my palettes made. I want to have lots of brushes and choices that I can go to, and they're right there. I don't have to make it in tech. So I've got that preparation, so to say, in the can. I want to have a cue structure, if possible, in the console. If I wasn't able to see rehearsal because I'm coming in from out of town, I've made that cue structure from the script. Some things are going to stay, some things are going to move, but I've got a backbone. I've got a skeleton. I want to have creature comforts at the table, whatever that might be, that keeps you comfortable. I want to have a good cushy seat, so I'm comfortable for all those hours. I want to have my magic sheet ready and clear. I want my rig to be working. I want to be ready to take notes in an easy way, and then I want to make sure I have it set up so I can have the director right at my side, so there's a place for them to be right. I like them right next to me. Those would be my top 10, top 11.
I think it depends on what you consider pre-tech. I like to, again, most of my work is overseas, so the tech process is a little different. I have a tendency to start working in rehearsal and over rehearsal, so I have the luxury of having lights come into a show fairly early. But before I actually start that cueing process, perhaps, I like to revisit the focus and go through it light by light and make sure everything is where I think it is and everything is clean when I start. So if there's something out of whack a little bit, I want to fix it right then before I get started into the cueing process. Also, I like to go back and really take a long, hard look at my groups and palettes and make sure I've kind of thought that through, so I'm not having to make last-minute changes once the kind of tech begins.
Something that I agree with both you guys, but something Stan said that I find extremely useful, and that is videotaping. I videotape usually the room run of the show so that I have access to the blocking if I'm lighting a show, especially without any actors there. And I think that's a very useful tool, especially for students. But I use it all the time and still use it.
I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't do that. I mean, there were days we didn't have that capability, and I remember when that became possible, I thought, oh, this is great, because I can take the blocking notes and everything, but there's nothing like going back to see exactly what they did. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also it helps with your timing.
Absolutely.
That you can actually really figure out what the timing's going to be for the cues before you actually start seeing it in dress rehearsal or whatever. Now, one thing to remember, if you're going to start doing this, please tell the stage manager that you plan on doing this, so the stage manager can announce to the cast that it's going to be videotaped just for your use, for lighting. Otherwise, the cast could get very nervous, actors and singers, especially singers. So they will make an announcement at the top of the rehearsal that you will be videotaping, and that it's only for use for their personal use for lighting the show, and not to put out on YouTube and someone's marking. You don't ever want to do that. You wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
Something happened on the last show that one of my students was doing that just opened last night. There was a video, a sound, and lighting effect where there was actually an earthquake. And the video was beautifully designed, and it actually looked really cool. It looked just like an earthquake. Timing was perfect. The sound was perfect. But he was having some challenges trying to get the lighting effect to match up with the video, and everything else just looked out of place. So I suggested, hey, instead of guessing, why don't you just videotape the section tonight? And then tomorrow, while you're in the theater alone, you can match it up to the sound cue perfectly and the video cue. And he did, and it actually worked really well. So again, it's a tool that we have in our phones.
Speaking of
so
that,
use it.
The tool, I was just, as you were talking, David, I was wondering when videotaping devices became ubiquitous. Because I remember certainly in the 80s, we didn't have that capability unless you were someplace with a lot of money and had video cameras. And I was thinking that the first time I saw people and I started recording on video must have been maybe the mid-90s. We had those cameras everybody was going to some kind of Circuit City and buying a video camera because it became affordable. Does that sound about right? Mid-90s?
Yeah, I don't know if the 90s. All I know is I remember how big they were. They were gigantic.
Yeah,
they looked like big television things that you put on your shoulder.
Right.
They were crazy. When they start hitting the phones, that's when everything changed. The iPhone really did change everything.
We had these little ones that recorded on digital video tape DVIs. right? Little Sonys.
Yeah.
We've had him. We've had him since I've been in Florida, which is '99. I'm just trying to trace the history, and then probably in the mid '90s, and when I was in Nebraska, we were taping shows. I'm just trying to think of like when it became easy.
When the phones came out, that's when it came.
Yeah, that's a lot of storage for your phone to keep on. You just have huge memory on the phone for video.
Well, that's why you got to get lots of memory in your phone. I just got a new iPhone the other day.
I
It's got
know,
128.
I know.
It's great, by the way. The iPhone was
The
it
XR,
10R.
right? The XR.
The 10R. It's fantastic.
Is that the
phone.
one with only single camera? Doesn't have the front facing? Only has the one camera?
No. It has one camera in the back and one camera in the front.
It does.
The iPhone 10 has two cameras in the back and one camera in the front. All right, and I think we're now in the weeds of the phone.
We are.
So
in
we're
the
going to
weeds.
move on.
We went totally off topic here.
So we're totally off topic now, but we're talking about videotaping rehearsals. So there you go. Hey, Philip in France wants to know, what do you guys think of the new Grand MA3 or Grand Ma 3? Is it Grand Ma or Grand MA?
I call it Grand MA.
Yeah, that's what I've always done, but it's Grandma. It's a Grandma.
What's the MA stand for?
Okay. MA lighting.
What does that stand for? There must be somebody's name or something in there that.
As I start, do me a favor, do some research on it right now so that we know
Right.
exactly what MA means. Okay, so I am not a programmer. That's my disclaimer right there. So I can't talk from a programmer's point of view. But I got the complete rundown on this amazing lighting controller at LDI. I must say, I was very, very impressed. The thing about the MA is that it's always been extremely user configurable, which basically drives most of my students crazy. For some reason, I don't know. I think the more options you have, the better off you are, and you're gonna I don't want the color picker here. I want it over there. I mean, you can move stuff around. You can program all these faders and all these encoders. It's really quite amazing. And a lot of the things that the MA has, the new one, the MA3, they have these dual encoders where you have like two encoders in one, which is very useful for some parameters. The layout of the board is really quite stunning. They've completely redesigned it. It gives you more screen area, more configurable screens. You can basically make that board look like anything you want. Plus, what's cool about it, and obviously the ergonomics are like I was just talking about, but they're now incorporated GDTF, which, by the way, means General Device Type Format, into their software. And this is what a lot of companies are doing now. This basically ensures manufacturers that their devices will be controlled as they want them to control. It's more like a standardization of their devices.
Like DMX for moving lights, kind of.
Oh, hey, don't say those three letters around me. If we can get through one show without saying DMX, man, that would be fantastic.
But standardization of this is a great thing. It's a really great thing.
It is a great thing.
Is GDTF going to handle the? I know it's going to make all the libraries sort of sync up, standardized. But is it really going to handle color standardization? That's been a bigger issue.
Manufacturers, they have to get their act together and make sure that their lights can actually produce these colors.
Yeah, that's a big ball of wax.
And I don't know why it is. Why is it?
Oh, because they're making color. So if it's glass, if it's CMY color flags, different people are making it. It's coming out of a furnace in a different way. And then if you're using LEDs, there's different manufacturers. And the making of an LED is an art, not a science. They come out in batches and bins, and so they're not all. It's a craft. They're not all perfect. It's like you put a filament in a light bulb, and you have certain quality control. But these things were sort of, it's like the coffee's a little too sweet, the coffee's a little too dark. I mean, that's a tough one, man, because the things that make the color are not consistent across the manufacturing process.
Yeah. I think they need better quality control. And if you have better quality control, your price is going to go up.
Well, the other thing that people should look at on the sciencey side of this is MacAdam Ellipses and understanding what MacAdam Ellipses mean in a color space. And in simple terms, it's like different areas of the color space have larger or smaller ellipses. And those ellipses are based on human subjects identifying a color. And once you are outside that ellipse, that's when most humans will have what they call the JND, just noticeable difference. So this is talking about standardizing people's retinas to respond in a particular way. It's tough stuff. This is a tough mountain to climb. I hope that we get there, but it's really hard.
Yeah. Other features the MA3 has, they now have 250,000 parameter controls. That's 250,000, by the way.
Parameters, like on one device, like you have one device.
I don't think we have one device with the 250,000.
But maybe that's relevant to like LED screens or something. What is that?
Yeah. They've also have much more playback capabilities where you can program any fader to pretty much do anything. It is that flexible. Also, one other thing that they showed me, which was really cool, and I've probably not explained this correctly, but I'll give it a shot. You can actually take systems of lights and portray them in 3D. And basically, put them on your touch screen in 3D and then grab them. It makes effects and chases a lot easier if you want certain lights to chase in certain ways. I thought that was a pretty cool feature. Maybe it's like a little bell and whistle that no one's going to use. But boy, did it look cool. And it looked like it was very efficient.
The only thing that you left out was their kind of redesign of their effects engines. And it's pretty, they're going where no one has gone before in effects manipulation. So I would say take a look at a Grand MA3 and see what it can do. But to kind of put it in human terms, what I found was the effects engines, if you are Monet or Picasso, if you're Da Vinci, they have built an effects engine that you can take as far as you can possibly imagine.
Wow.
And for the rest of us who are mere mortals, it's more effects engine than we're ever going to need. So they have done amazing work in that area.
Yeah. This is a major upgrade. It's not like a minor thing where they added one or two effects. Obviously, they took some time and some care doing this. I'm just curious how much it cost. Anyone know?
I just priced them.
How much is that?
I don't remember. I got to go look at my notes, but we're not going to get one.
Is it above 40,000?
It was in
you
that.
Remember?
Yes, it was in that world. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question all the way from Ohio, a young lady by the name of Rebecca. And she says, I'm looking for a summer theater job. Where do I start? Well, there's a couple places you can start right now. And I would go on the internet, and we will post this to our Facebook site eventually. Type in Professional Theater Companies Summer. And if you do that, there is a huge listing of every summer stock theater in the nation and Canada by state or by province. It gives you links to their website, to who does the hiring and firing. So that's a start right there. Professional Theater Companies Summer. Also, Cornell has a site, Cornell University, and their site is called Theater Summer Stock and Intern Links. Not quite as in-depth as the Professional Theater Company page, but also quite good. And finally, you haven't missed it yet. February 27th through March 3rd in Knoxville, Tennessee, will be the Southeastern Theater Conference meeting. And SETC, as it's known, is a great place for undergraduates and high school students to attend. And a lot of the summer stock theater companies are there recruiting. Some of the cruise lines are there recruiting. I think even Cirque is there recruiting. So there's plenty of things to do. And right now is when you want to start doing this. I know a lot of companies actually, I believe it's Jacob's Pillow, for example. I think the Jacob's Pillow deadline for summer application was December 3rd. I could be wrong about that. But when I started looking at places like Berkshire Theater Festival, Williamstown, there's a lot of places, December, January, they're getting the applications in because they want to make their decisions by February. And if they can't fill all those positions, then the fallback is SETC in late February, early March.
Yep. Yeah, waiting for USITT is much too late. And I think we talked about this last year, a little bit about summer theaters, but I just want to say and re-emphasize how important and how valuable doing summer theater is to you as an artist and to you as a business person, because you're going to meet so many people there. Even if you're an assistant, you're going to meet other assistants. You're going to meet assistant directors. You're going to meet stage, you're going to meet production, you're going to meet people who can help your career. And these are lifelong friendships. I could look back to the summer theater I did way back when I was an undergraduate student. And I did summer theater as a designer. I was fortunate enough to find a design position. And it really, I don't know where I'd be without it. I really don't. I don't know, how my career as an artist or career period would have formulated if I didn't make these connections. Now, how do you find them? Like Steve said, Steve had some great ideas there. Also, there's a publication called Art Search. That's old school, but Art Search will actually advertise for summer theater positions, along with more professional standard positions, and also for graduate programs. Some people still go ahead and advertise there. Also, get your butt into your professor's office and ask that professor, because we have connections and we may be able to help you and lead you to the right person. I know I do this all the time for my students. Call this person, call that person, check out Santa Fe, check out Chautauqua. And a lot of us know these people, so we can say, hey, Julie Adams is going to be calling you, and I suggested that she give you a call. She's really great and dependable. And also, finally, the more you know, the better chance you will have in getting the gig. Because if you're a lighting designer, but you also know how to weld, you may get the job over the guy who just knows how to be the lighting designer, right? And I tell this to actors all the time, especially for summer gigs. Tell them that you know how to focus lights. Tell them that you know how to, build a flat. They may hire you as an actor because you have these other skills that you can help in case they need you.
You are listening to Light Talk with Stan, Steve, and David, the Lumen Brothers. Light Talk this week is sponsored by...
The summer festival season has finally wound down. Fall is behind us and winter is just around the corner. That means you need to prepare for winter on the road. Those shorts and t-shirts are not going to get you through those cold nights on the bus. It's time to turn to Cheeky Rigger of Sheffield for all of your clothing needs. The Cheeky Rigger of Sheffield suggests a layered look, sometimes called the Beckham look. That means great fitting jeans in black, a gray tee, and an open button blue jean shirt. But it needs to look like you've slept in it for a few days. Don't even wash that thing. Let it stink a little bit. No. If you want to dress it up, throw on a vest and add a utility kilt in camo. Don't forget the accessories, sunglasses, scarf, and a hat. But just remember, guys, no baseball caps after Labor Day. You need a hat that says, I'm super cool, local crew. That means you need a Stetson, a tan Stetson, a beaver Stetson, a Stetson Lariat B, just like James Dean wore in Giant. But not fresh out of the box, no. Leave it out in the rain for a few days, drink some water out of it, spray a little rim oil on it, give it some damn character, and never take it off. Finally, boots. Work boots, my friend, that's what I'm talking about. You can't have enough work boots. An amateur would try to pair black boots with those black jeans. The Cheeky Rigger of Sheffield says bollocks.
Never.
Go big or go home. Go brown, baby. If you're really cool, go with tan suede. Finally, splash on a double handful of funky road case. The crew will say, where is that smell coming from? Don't say a word. They know it's you. The Cheeky Rigger of Sheffield. We make underwear, too.
Hey, have you guys ever seen Giant? That may be one of my favorite films of all time.
I just drive down the road to Marfa and take a look at the set.
Oh, really? The set's there?
You can go down to Marfa, man. You can go to all those places
God.
James Dean did. They got the place where
oh my God.
Elizabeth Taylor, put her suntan lotion on. It's all there.
Gregory Peck. Wasn't he in Giant?
No, not Gregory. Not Gregory Peck.
Who was it?
Oh, heck.
I thought it was Gregory Peck.
No, it'll come to me in a minute. We'll figure this out.
By the end. I love that movie. I love that film. That film is one of the greatest films of all time. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
I'm actually not familiar with it.
You're kidding.
You're kidding me.
Kidding me.
I'm sorry. You got to see it, Stan. It is truly one of the greatest films.
I must know it, but it's not coming to mind.
Rock Hudson.
1956. I'm just thinking if I ever saw it.
Oh, you got to watch it, Stan. It truly is James Dean at his best. And it's a real great story about Texas.
And now, we're back to Light Talk.
Oh, those ducks are back again. Damn it. Kyle, kill that duck. Hey, that duck sound tells us that it's time for our Let's Talk About segment. From our interview last week with Al Crawford, one thing that we discussed was not allowing technology to overwhelm the art. And that brings up the question, has technology reached a point where we only use a small percentage of it in practice? What do you think, guys?
I don't know. I don't think technology is getting in the way. I don't think we're maxing it out or incapable of understanding what's being offered to us. I think we're probably having the same conversation that people had when they went from a auto transformer board to a two-seam preset board, and then from a two-seam preset board to a computer console. Do we need all this? Does this stuff actually help us, or is it getting in the way? So I think this is great. I think everything we're seeing coming along gives us another kind of brush or another kind of paint to use in our toolbox as lighting designers.
Speaking of paints and brushes, one of the most useful tools of technology that I'd never even dreamed that we'd be able to reach back when I was a student was the use of discrete timings. This week I was talking to my students about the difference between fade outs and blackouts and if they were actually as simple as they sound. And they're not, because they don't have to be. They can be, but they don't have to be. And that is one of the most unused techniques that I see in lighting today, is that you can now assign discrete timings not only to different lighting intensities or different fixtures, but to different parameters in different fixtures as the fade is occurring, which gives you an extraordinary amount of control and opens up really new artistic visions for you to actually express on stage. And we went through a few of them, and I think, some of my students were surprised. Some weren't, some know that, or they've worked with me and they've seen me do it. But it doesn't mean you have to do it. But you need to know that it's there, because a lot of times in our imaginations, as we come up with transitions and fades and things like that, we think very simply in time of intensity, where we can actually now think of setting different times of intensity, but also different times of different parameters. Colors can change as things are fading. One trick I used to use with the VL1000 is that as that sucker faded, because it was a tungsten halogen lamp, it got warmer. So I'd introduce just a little bit of cyan as that light would fade out, just to filter out some of the amber. Little tricks like that, but you can actually have very complex transitions using discrete timings. Now that's a piece of technology that I personally use all the time, and I'm sure there are others. Like Steve said, we use a lot of it, and especially with effects. What do you think, Stan?
Well, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking about this. Having those amazing tools means that the performance, the work, has to be willing to take what I'm going to call heartbeat to heartbeat action or change. So if you're going to use these things, which I think are fantastic, let me give an example. So let's take a simple example from the end of Glass Menagerie, which my students are working on this week. Well, it ends with Tom on the fire escape and Laura somewhere downstage with her menagerie, and there's a candelabra, usually in Tennessee Williams' description. Well, you could just end that play with one fade out or one blackout. But really, if you look at the end of that play carefully, and you direct it in such a way, there's a lot of beats in there. There's his light. How slow does his light go out? There's his line. There's her looking at the menagerie. There's the candle. He says, blow out your candle. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in a very short period of time where you could really make use of all of those fantastic tools that you're talking about. But it requires that the direction and the performance open up to breathe, to put time in, to make that heightened experience and let lighting sort of conduct that moment. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that we have that capability, but I'm not sure everybody is creating a performance where it can really be used with great effect. But I think the capabilities are fantastic, but you've got to think, heartbeat to heartbeat, moment to moment, beat to beat to put it to use. And that's just not just the lighting designer, it's the choreographer and the director as well.
Absolutely. That's why directors need to know lighting. And the good directors do. They know they've worked with designers who use these effects all the time. They hear them. They hear these techniques being called out to the programmer. And a lot of times I will turn to the director and say, you know something, I think I'm going to try a little color change while this fade is happening. Or I'm going to iris in with these different lights, then come in, just through intensity iris, not, an actual iris coming in, but an intensity area iris coming in. And I will tell that to the director, and the director will hear those terms being used, and then the next time he'll say, hey, remember that intensity iris you did last time?
Right.
How about here for here?
Right.
That's great. And I don't know if I totally agree with you, Stan, about the actors using this or following the lighting. I always feel that the lighting needs to follow the actor.
No, I wasn't saying that. I'm saying it has to, that direction has to be able to incorporate these techniques, right?
Right. Or if the direction is simple, you don't have to use the techniques. It's a question of communication between you and the director.
Always.
And making sure that director understands what we can do nowadays with the technology. When I was telling my students this, I was flashing back to when I was a student. The most dreadful words any professor can use is when I was a student, right? We had a bunch of 6-packs of auto transformer dimmers, and 3 people ran these dimmers. It was just intensity up and down, and they obviously, the master did not work like a proportional master. Lights would go down in different sections. And I think of what we have now, just in, 50 years? Less, about 40 years since I was that student. It's mind-boggling. And now we're talking about the Grand MA3, That is just amazing. We are so fortunate to go through this span of technology in our lives.
Just to sort of bring it back home, though, the most classic and thing you're most sensitive in terms of light has not changed, and that is intensity.
That's true.
The light level is still the fundamental thing that we sense more than anything else across change.
I will argue with you on that too, because I think it's movement. It's not intensity. I think movement is the most obvious.
When you say movement, do you
quality
mean,
of light?
So you mean
movement in color, movement in intensity, movement in the light moving. The movement in focus. Movement is really what attracts our eye. But you're right. I mean, without intensity, you have no light.
You have no movement. You have nothing. But I guess that's an interesting question. It's an interesting question you raised. I'd be curious. That's a very interesting thought, David, because a slight change in intensity is quite noticeable, and I'm wondering if very subtle movements of lights is more noticeable than slight movements in lumens. That's a good question. I don't know. You think so, huh? You think movement is more so?
Absolutely. I've always felt that.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are some scientific studies about that. We just have to figure it out. Figure out where they are.
Okay, so it looks like I've got the last question today, and it comes from Lee in Springfield. I'm guessing that's Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Massachusetts. I don't know. What is your favorite non-theater lighting source for the stage? Well, let me just flip this a little bit. All the world's a stage, Lee. But I guess, I was thinking about this question a bit this week. I mean, and it's funny because we're doing a production at the moment that the design team has zoned in, and they're making the central image of this play a street light. And it's going to be center of the stage. It's going to be in the round, blah, blah, blah. So I've been having this conversation with one of my students, and I put him in touch with a lighting designer / artist whose name you guys will know, and I'm going to call her out on the show so he could talk to her. Heather Carson is a lighting designer, lighting artist who, once upon a time, was the person who said, I'm going to bring in all these lights from different, sort of industries, warehouses and architecture, and use them on stage. And she made quite a splash by doing that. So I think you should take a look at Heather Carson's work. But I've seen, she'll take a sodium vapor floodlight from the side of a warehouse and stick it in a wing on stage and get this crazy thing that you just don't see on stage. So I think anything that is surprising, there's no light source you can't put on stage, right? I have a favorite. I don't know. I tend to like anything HMI, but that's still a stage light, So
It's a stage light.
It's still a stage light, I don't know. What do you guys think? You got one?
I just want to mention Heather lives here in LA, and Stan is absolutely correct. She is an amazing lighting artist, and I have been fortunate to have her come in and teach some of my classes when I'm away doing shows. And the students absolutely adore her, and I adore her. She's just a great person.
She is a great gal. She is.
But yeah, I saw one of her shows. It was an opera many years ago where she did that. She just found some big industrial lamp and stuck it off stage, and it was very, very effective. So no, I don't have a favorite one. I mean, sometimes I'll go to Home Depot and look for something and see if it works.
Sometimes I like a big open face fixture with no lens that's just really, really bright and creates these singular shadows and a very strong sense of directionality. But that's very much in Heather's sort of bailiwick, And she was great, by the way. I hooked her up with my student so that he could talk to her about sodium vapor, about how it works. We actually want the audience to feel uncomfortable in this production. So they're talking about using that effect just twice in the show. And she was really gracious. Like, she answered right away and said, yeah, have him email me. Happy to talk to him. But I think that's a place to sort of explore. I think the back and forth between, fixtures that are not designed for the stage make for very interesting and surprising results.
I was going to say the sun, but that is actually a theatrical lighting source because the Greeks used the sun.
Absolutely.
And the Greeks used the sun brilliantly. They actually used the sunset for the color.
David, you just made me think of one. So we have a dance studio that faces west, and it's all windows on the west side, clear story windows up above and big ones below. And years ago, we put automated shades in so that we don't take a whole day to cover up the windows for a performance in there. And they're on a controller, and they can be controlled from a light board. So I've always dreamed of doing a show in a space that had daylight penetration through windows with electric shades, so I could actually raise and lower the shades, like David says, to light sunlight in, to control the sun enter and exit the space. I would love to do something like that. So I guess that would be my favorite.
Yeah. A
way to use the sun, as David said, but give me motorized shades on windows so I can sort of play the shades as if they're light sources. That would be that would really be cool.
I've seen it done.
I bet you have.
And it was done, believe it or not, it was done at a very large church in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
And it was, I try to remember the name of the church.
What show was it? What did they do it on?
No, it was just one of their worship services.
Worship services. Oh, beautiful.
But this church has more equipment than most rock concerts.
Than God.
Than God. Right, exactly. You shall have great lighting equipment. All right, we just need $30 million. Anyway, they have motorized shades, and they use it. They actually use the sunset in their services. And then there's a very specific moment where the shades close, boom, the stage lights come on. And it's absolutely stunning. Yeah. And I also mentioned the Greeks using the sun, but also places like Santa Fe, which is an outdoor amphitheater, uses the sun quite a bit. And you have to go in there understanding how to control it.
That sounds beautiful, David. That's sort of the vision that I have. That using music and shades opening and sunlight pouring in, and just beautiful. Yeah, we have in that dance studio. I said that the clear story windows. There's one particular time of day where it just puts a strip of light across the dance floor, and the dancer can move in and out of it. And of course, there's ambient light because it's sun, so there's so much they can step in it and step out of that slice of light. I call it, slice of sunlight. I love that idea. So I guess I do have a favorite, even though I haven't had the chance to do it myself. That's what I would like to do.
Steve?
Lee, I do have a favorite non-theater lighting source for the stage, and it's called a Zippo lighter. I just did a new play by Lynn Jenkin, and the play was called Jonah, and it is about Jonah, the fellow who was swallowed by the whale. And in one scene, Jonah is in the belly of the whale. So the thing that we decided to do with the stage was take it completely black, no light at all on the stage. And we simply hear kind of sounds of the ocean, and we hear the actor talking. And then the next thing we see is the actor flicking on a Zippo lighter. So it's just a Zippo lighter lighting the scene.
Love it.
The thing that was interesting about it was that we made a decision that there would be no extra lights, nothing else, just the black void. And I wasn't immune to the fire marshal. The fire marshal came by, and oddly enough, he wasn't interested in if we were going to set things on fire with our Zippo lighter. He wanted to see how hot the Zippo lighter got in the actor's hand during that scene. So it did get warm, and what we found, the playwright went back and wrote pauses in the story, and during those pauses, the lighter would go out, and you would hear the sounds of the ocean, and you would hear the actor speaking, but speaking totally in the dark, and then click, here would come the lighter again. So I liked it a lot. I thought it was very effective.
Perfect. I love it.
Yep. Candles. See, going back to low-tech candles, flame. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, but it's great to have intimate theaters that you can get away with that, and it really is. It's some of my favorite. People ask me what's my favorite space. Our little black box theater that seats like 90 people. Amazing. Hey guys, that Hammond organ solo tells us that once again you spent another morning listening to Light Talk. Check out our webpage at lighttalk.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
But in case you do decide to litigate on us, the law firm of Tungsten, Phosphor, and Filament will come to our defense until all of our money is gone.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to tune in next week when we discuss, what are layers of light? Are conventional fixtures dead? Stress is doing me in! Stop the stress! And help me get organized, or else I'll start getting stressed out!
All of that stuff and a new sponsor, Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around this world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
So long, everyone.
Light Talk.